nine. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. Liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Roger, Tower.
Welcome to the Alien Probe Podcast. It is Saturday, May 3rd, 2025. Today we've got Matt and Robert Walker from the West Coast, just like we are, an author of 2 books, medieval military thrillers. Tell us about yourself, Robert. How'd you get into these? How'd you get into this?
Well, my father was a professional editor by trade. So this has always been in my blood, I guess. But I've been writing since I was a little kid, but never novels. I did short stories and poetry and just everything I could think of when I was younger. But I did always want to write. Took creative writing classes in college and all that. But I never had time to write, creatively at least, for pleasure until I retired, and that was about 10 years ago. So ever since then, I've been sort of getting back to some of my dreams, one of which was to write novels, and now I'm doing it.
What was your work before you were retired?
I was a city government, local government, city administration.
How did you like that?
I loved it, actually. I did most of my schoolwork. I did my master's in public administration, so it was what I wanted to do. I really enjoyed it. It's sort of a really odd job in that I got my hands into a lot of different things. Local government, you're talking about everything from public works to engineering to parks and rec to public media, all of those things. So you get involved in an awful lot of things. The parts I didn't like were, there's a lot of, when you're in upper administration, I was assistant city manager for decades, and you're dealing with a lot of negativity as well, not just the griping from some of the community, but internally there's a lot. You're doing union negotiations and depositions and grievances, and most of those kinds of things that the city manager doesn't want to deal with get handed off to the assistant. So that's a large part of my job.
That sounds like a great deal of fun, Robert.
Drama Island.
I've got,
You learn a lot about people.
That's
which
right.
is good, for authorship. And you'd be surprised in that amount of time with local government how much intrigue and suspense and drama there is. So it all helps with the background.
Yeah, I deal a lot with people too. I mean, swimming pool warranty. So when a lot of people that spend a lot of money on pools and their booster pump goes out, they have a tendency to get twitchy. So
working with people, it's the best and it's the worst.
Yeah, I think it's a blessing and a curse, right?
Yeah, it's no big. I enjoy doing it. It's just sometimes.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
So tell us about your books. You have 2 books.
Yeah, it's a medieval fantasy series. I think you mentioned military. It's somewhat military. It's got a lot of violence and a lot of mayhem in it, but it's also about the human spirit and friendship and sort of trying to right wrongs no matter what the cost, that kind of thing. But you're talking about. Actually, both of the books have won a number of awards, so it's an award-winning series. 6 Moons, 7 Gods.
Wow.
The first book was 6 Moons, 7 Gods, and it's a story of revenge, good versus evil. You're talking about a criminal organization that plots to murder a couple of kings, but they are forced to reckon with this retired royal guard, a prescient woman and her brooding daughter who turns out to have some skills of her own, and a king's cagey marshal. And so the idyllic world of Baelon is suddenly turned upside down. All hell breaks loose. It's called a rollicking adventure.
Nice.
With tinges of grimdark, mystery, romance, all of that.
That's the first one?
Yeah, that's the first one. The second one is Two Crowns, Three Blades. It's a sequel, so it picks up where the first one left off. And I think by and large, this conflict, the good versus evil in the first book, it's kind of simmering. I mean, it's kind of nasty simmering. You got a lot of, but most of the murders and the mayhem occur in dark alleys and behind closed doors, right? Where the second novel, now it's full front and center.
Wow.
The king has declared war, and we're out on the battleground, and the romantic subplot continues, but it's just a lot more murder and death.
That's awesome. Is there a plan to write a third one, or?
Yeah, I just started the third. I'm sort of underway. I sort of take a break between each of the books. You need a little bit of a breather, and it helps to take a little time to do things like this and have some fun. But yeah, I'm starting to get back at it now, so the third book's underway.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How long does it normally take to write, like, the first one? What was it?
For me, there hasn't been a normal, Matt. I spent probably 2 to 3 years writing the first one because I was really naive. I didn't know what I was doing when I first started out, and I learned so much that the second book took about a year. And I suspect the third one will probably go similarly, maybe even a little shorter, because again, now I'm feeling a little more confident and a little more versed in what I'm doing, and the plot line is kind of takes on a life of its own, so it's a little easier to develop the second and third book than it is the first. You're starting from scratch.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, one of my favorite series was The Dark Tower by Stephen King, and he was only going to write a few. And then, of course, fans pushed him to write, 5 more books. But that was really the first series I got into, and I love series books.
Yeah. They're awesome.
I'm definitely
going to... a couple of the ones that really turned me into a fan were Dune by Frank Herbert.
Yeah.
And then the...
Oh, wow. Yeah. I read the whole series.
Yep.
That was
awesome.
That really enthralled me. That was something else. I was young at the time, but...
I was a little disappointed in the movie, and in the movie, I'm sure it followed that's how when they do your movie, I think, or your books. I'm
Movies
sure
are never as good as the books.
But they were in these
Rarely.
they were in these ships, and it was like colonial backdrops, and it looked like old style. It didn't make sense to me. I mean, it's like it did and it didn't. I mean, it was weird. I just thought it was kind of unusual.
Yeah, I think it's often the case, right? You get disappointed because you see the movie in your head while you're reading the book.
Right.
You're watching the movie.
Yep.
And then the next thing comes out and you're like, wait a minute.
That's not what I look like.
That's not it at all. It's horrible.
Yeah, where did they get these robes and things? And I'm like,
yeah.
It was an awesome. I mean, the books were awesome, but why do I have a series of questions that I've been
okay.
given.
Prepared today.
I've been given to when we do these things, we have.
Don't stick to it on my behalf.
It's since I haven't read the books yet, I
Correct.
will.
I haven't yet. We're
Gotcha.
getting it though.
Why medieval war stories remain relevant in today's climate of global conflict?
Oh God.
You should have been given these questions in advance.
Well, that's kind of an easy one because any kind of military that you're writing out, how is it relevant? Geez, all you got to do is open the paper, right? It's
Conflict.
Yeah, and this has been going on since day one. It's going to continue going on, unfortunately. War is always going on somewhere.
Yep.
So
well, we have to
it's
have
pretty easy.
We have to have a place to sell all of our weapons. So
yeah, we make them, mass produce them.
Yeah,
Lockheed would be out of business if we didn't have a place to sell these things.
It's so much more fun in a fictional environment.
Correct.
But,
yeah.
We're
lives
crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
Here's another one.
Oh yeah, here they come.
Here we go.
We probably should have given these to you before the show started.
That's okay. I'm sure I've seen a lot of them. That one was a little new to me, but that's okay.
It's the PR firm it's the PR. You probably ask yourself, what does the PR firm have to do with the podcast like this? How many books have we done, Matt? We probably author.
Oh boy.
We do a lot of authors, and
Yeah.
I get at least 7.
Yeah, at least 7 authors.
Yeah.
And the PR firm, we have a PR firm in L.A. that also gives us books, but and authors. But it's kind of interesting. We generally see, so I don't know if you've probably haven't seen our show, but we usually deal with UFOs and extraterrestrials, but we like. I don't want to say your book's weird, but everything weird. We deal with Bigfoot.
I love books.
And we have guests on. A lot of it's Mutual UFO Network. We have people on. Matt's a MUFON Matt. And, so we deal a lot with that part of it. Have you ever seen a UFO, Robert? We have to ask you.
I have, you know what? I don't know, right?
Right.
Oh, that's
know.
right.
That's a good.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm not one of those who would claim that I have and be adamant about it. But, you see things in the sky, you wonder what the heck that was, because it certainly didn't look like your normal airplane or anything.
Right.
I'm not, no, I don't know that I have.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I can appreciate where you're coming from. My book does have the prescient woman in it. It's got a little bit of the supernatural in terms of special powers and all of that. So I can relate to that.
That's good.
You sound like when you describe what you've seen. I've got a friend that was in it's like childhood friend who is he was in special operations. I go, well, so what have you seen? Have you ever seen a UFO or extraterrestrial? He's like, I've seen a lot of stuff. I don't know what it was. So. I go, I don't know if it was a flying saucer.
How would you know?
Unless it landed.
Right. Right. You know it's not a helicopter or plane or a drone, but you don't know what it is. You really don't know.
If you subscribe to the notion that they're out there, and they're that advanced, then clearly they could be invisible. I mean, they might be all around us. So who knows?
Do you believe that we're alone in this universe, or what do you believe?
No, I don't think we're alone in the universe. I think that's a little. The place is so big, right? I mean,
Correct.
It's just limitless, and so the notion that we're the only ones out here that just happen to be. No, I can't.
It's a little arrogant, right?
I doubt. Yeah, I doubt that.
Yeah.
But are there other intelligent beings that could communicate with us and have found a way to fly here and stuff? I'm skeptical.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
The other big question is that since our oceans are only 10% explored, that they've actually been here, but yet we have had no, very limited hard contacts with something may have already been here when we.
Yeah, well, and they do find things in the deep, dark underground of the water, right? That occasionally you see pictures of these things, and you're like, oh man.
What is that? Right.
Yeah, what is that? You certainly don't want to be swimming next to that thing.
That's right. And new species of whatever they find all the time. So we haven't found everything.
Oh, no, not by any means.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, you ready for the next one?
Yeah.
The moral gray areas of war, both in fiction and reality. What are the moral gray areas?
The moral gray areas.
I don't even.
That's a weird question.
Of war, both in fiction. I think they're referring to your book. Is there a moral gray area in your?
Yeah, I mean, certainly there are morally gray areas. I mean, how do you justify mounting up and going off to kill somebody?
Right.
When, you're consciously, it's an act of war or aggression. I think in my book, a lot of it is driven by either an ideology, or commitment to a cause, or more often in my book, it's about the bond of friendship and somebody who's just lost somebody. So you're talking about vengeance or revenge. Yeah. I mean, morally gray, I don't know. That depends on what your morals are. That's all subjective, right?
That would be the rights. Who has the right to or not the right to. So.
Yeah. But I think, in my book, I try not to justify those kinds of things. I mean, it is what it is. I'm telling a story, and these things are part of real life. It's happening every day too.
Correct.
People are killing other people for revenge and acts of vengeance, and and that's why we have juries, right? Because you get 12 people, and not every person is going to agree as to whether that was justified or not. So
right.
that's a huge question. There's no real good answer to that.
No. I agree.
I wonder who writes these questions.
I was wondering the same.
And you know what? It's funny because I work with a PR group and they've given me 20 questions or so. Neither of those are on there.
Yeah. Now,
But that's cool.
I had to look, make sure I had the right book. Yeah, the PR firms are kind of interesting.
But it's a decent question.
it is. It's definitely a decent question.
Yeah, I don't mind the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, in real interview land, you get these ahead of time, so you can think about what you're going to say.
No, that's okay.
But,
Real
we're not
interview
we're not very professional. That I will
And
admit.
hey, that's okay. You're doing exactly what you ought to be doing. When you're flying around in a spaceship doing it.
That's right. We can
Called
do
the
whatever we
Alien
want.
Probe.
That's right. We can do whatever we want over here.
How graphic is the violence in your book?
It gets pretty graphic. I wouldn't call it gratuitous. There's no.
Which is my
I
favorite.
don't put in. It's never for the sake of the violence, right?
Right.
But when people take vengeance, some of them are pretty fierce about it.
Emotional.
And, yeah, and they lose their temper, and
That's
they've
right.
got a handy tool in hand.
It's a human.
and they go at it.
Yeah,
And
it's
sometimes I cut the scene there, and you don't get to see what happened. But other times
you get all of it.
you get all of it.
Yeah.
But it's not. Again, it's not gratuitous. It's not for the sake of the violence. It's
Yeah.
for sake of telling the story.
Yeah.
Is it set in? I mean, what's the backdrop, so to speak? Is it set in the future? Is it?
It's an alternate universe.
Alternate universe.
It's
That's
very
cool.
very much like Earth, but it's got all its own, its special
That's awesome.
flora and fauna and beasts and all of this. So it's quite different too in its reality. But it's medieval time. If you want to sort of relate it to, and that's why we call it. It's called a medieval thriller.
Yeah, like Dark Ages.
Yeah, definitely Dark Ages, brutal
Right.
times.
Yep. So of
Yeah.
course there's going to be violence because that was the way things were done.
Yeah.
That's the order of the day. Yeah. Is it a sci-fi novel? Are they sci-fi novels, or is it
No,
more?
He said more
more-
medieval fantasy, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more medieval fantasy. Not a lot of sci-fi. No,
Yeah.
no sci-fi really.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Here we go again.
Here we go.
The challenge. I don't like that question, so I'm not going to ask you.
There you go.
That's good because I probably wouldn't like it either.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Why his characters? I don't know why they didn't ask you these beforehand. Why these characters, heroes and villains alike, reflect the complexities of human nature?
Why? That's an easy one.
Well, why they reflect the complexities of real life. I do try to make my characters true to life, right? And people are really complex.
Correct.
And so I don't mind that question. I've had spins on that before, and I do try. I think, a lot of what I've done over the years is try to observe people, and they are sort of, everybody's different. I kind of do get hooked into this. Occasionally, I'll get hooked into this mistake, right, of thinking everybody thinks the way I do. You're walking around
Right.
town, and you're just thinking everybody sort of thinks the same, and then you see somebody do something or say something, you're like, whoa, no, they don't, not at all. We're all so different, and so I try to make my characters unique. And one of the beauties, I write in third person close, and for listeners who don't know what that means, is you're inside the head of a particular character at any
Correct.
given time. And there are a host of characters in my book. So one minute you're in the mind of a grief-stricken king, the next minute you're in the mind of a murderous thief, but you get to hear what's going on inside their head while they're killing somebody, and so it's a little different. It's different than the movies, right?
Right.
In the movies, you get to see what they're doing, you get to hear what they say, but you don't necessarily know what's going on inside their head.
Right.
They could be smiling and still thinking, "I'm going to kill you, you
Right.
son of a bee," right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But in the book, you get to hear them thinking
Yeah.
just what's going on. So it's kind of different. But yeah, I don't think my characters are certainly not cardboard cutouts. Not all the villains are rotten to the core. They have some very admirable traits. So a lot of my fans like this one particular villain even though they'll write me and they say, I know I shouldn't, but I really kind of am drawn to this guy, right? That's real life.
It is. As I say,
You know, how many times we read in the newspaper about these guys that just murdered somebody, and all the neighbors are like, "What?
I
How
had
can
no
that be?
idea.
This guy was so nice.
I like this guy. Yeah,
He's such a nice guy."
Right.
Okay.
Right. He's
So,
Sometimes they just go over the edge.
Yeah.
What kind of books did you read growing up?
oh man, I started the first series I remember. My dad bought me this series of books by Zane Grey, who was a famous
Oh, yeah.
Western author.
Yep.
And almost every page, somebody had a twisted sense of humor because he bought it at a flea market, brought it home. I loved the books, but almost every last page was torn out.
what?
Yeah,
Oh,
just
no.
the last page. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I had to walk to the local library about a mile away, and I'd read the last page. But those books were great. I grew up on Zane Grey. I grew up on Bond, Ian Fleming. Loved
Yeah.
those books, man. Those were great. And then my dad read J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings series to us
Right.
when we were kids. So I grew up on
Nice.
that.
Nice.
What a
And then I
great.
graduated to, Dune and
Right.
yeah.
My dad never read to me. He did take me to see.
Is that right?
He did. I was given books like Dr. Seuss at a very young age. I learned to read really early.
Yeah.
He would take me to see movies like Dirty Harry. You know,
Yeah.
you know. But when I was
Yeah.
when I was much too young to probably see a movie like that. But
Yeah.
you know, a lot of movies and things, and you know, it did read. I liked a lot of science fiction. But you know, I just wonder how an author, you know, did you does your style follow any of the, even loosely, any of the books that you read?
Yeah, I mean, I think even though Zane Grey and Ian Fleming, they're not fantasy authors, by any stretch of the imagination, but they wrote to thrill,
Right.
I mean, they're out to thrill their audience. And I think that's, a part of what I'm doing is trying to thrill the audience. And
That's
as
awesome.
far as the science fiction goes, the Herbert and Tolkien, and since then, Scott Lynch, the Gentleman Bastard series, I loved that. I think a little bit of all of that is flavoring what I do. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think books are kind of passed over with movies and directors. And I grew up on books because I was a musician. So I was always looking for something to influence me on what I was going to write next musically. So books help with that, other than records and listening to other artists and stuff. But books help with that. It also kept me more away from TV and more into my own, imagination. So that's what I loved about books.
That's funny, Matt, because that goes both ways, I think. I write best when I'm listening to music.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
interesting. What did you play?
I play guitar. I've played guitar since
Oh,
I was
yeah.
11. So, yeah,
Nice.
I always use books and, like I said, as a kind of a sponge. And, I'd put out music or saw a song or something that was based on whatever I'd read, So
Beautiful.
just kind of twisted it and threw my own little turn into it.
I love it.
Matt still plays.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
You
Very
know,
nice.
Thank you.
We go see Veronica.
Lucia. Yeah.
We go see it. It's metal. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know if that'd be your cup of tea, there, Robert. But
Yeah.
It's a loud, aggressive, but,
You
it serves
gotta
its
let it
purpose.
out.
Exactly.
Let it out somehow.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
Better that than through vengeance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
it's good stuff.
Thank you.
Where did you grow up, Robert?
I grew up back east, Massachusetts, right where Vermont, New Hampshire, and Mass come together.
Nice.
Small town.
Nice.
Where you have seasons, huh? Not like
Yeah,
California.
exactly. But most of my memories of that are clearly romanticized, right? I mean, I remember leaf forts and snowball fights
Yeah.
and snowmen and all, but you kind of forget about shoveling the driveway and the walks and the fact your car won't frickin' start in
Yep.
the morning.
Frozen.
In fact, you can't get the key in the ignition because it's all frozen up.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
just horrible. It's a hard life in the winter.
I hate snow.
Yeah,
I
so do
literally
I.
hate snow. I will avoid snow at all costs. My wife wants to
Yeah.
take the dogs. We'll take the dogs to the snow. I'm like, nah, I don't think so.
It's
I own two 4-wheel drives in one of my past lives. And I never once went to the snow.
Oh wow.
I never once went in the dirt.
I lived in it for 6 years and I hated it too. Ugh.
Well, it's beautiful to look at.
Correct.
It
Or visit.
can be beautiful to look at.
That's right. Yeah, I'd visit it, but I don't want to live there.
Well, and the season lasts so long. You sort
Right.
of think 4 seasons, maybe 3 months each, right?
No.
That winter just it's a hog.
The
Right.
bad one.
Yeah.
The bad one lasts the longest.
It
Yeah.
starts getting cold and it starts getting good and cold in November. So you got November, December, January, February.
Yep.
March is no picnic. So that's almost freaking half a year.
Like April, May, is it done yet? Are we done?
Yeah.
Let's be done with this.
Well, where you're at now on the West Coast, it's kind of Mediterranean, right?
It is. It really is beautiful. We hung a little shingle on our front door saying Shangri-La because
Nice.
it just doesn't get any better than this.
I'm
It's
very
beautiful.
jealous.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And my wife, you can get her out of here with a crowbar. She's telling me so. She says, "No, we're never leaving here."
We're done.
Is your wife?
Yeah.
Is your wife retired too?
She is. Yeah, she was a school teacher.
Nice. That's a good.
This is like the idyllic, couple. You have kids?
Yeah, three great kids. One is in New York. One's
Nice.
just down the road in San Jose between us, and
Yeah.
the third is in Denver. Yeah,
Nice.
2 boys and a girl.
That's
Very
awesome.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got 3 boys. 2 are here, and then the other one's back in Georgia.
I'm 2 boys and a girl guy too.
All right, all three.
A couple of added-ons too.
3 for all.
Yeah, 3 for all. 3 was like, oh, we can hear Max.
Yeah, I can hear my dogs. You'll always hear. My neighbors they sent me a text last night about 11 o'clock and said, "Oh, we're going to be replacing the concrete on our driveway tomorrow." My wife likes to sleep in on podcast days. And she woke up at 6 o'clock to the neighbor asking the workers if they needed water.
Oh my gosh.
Were they out there with a jackhammer?
Oh, no, they had jackhammer.
Yay!
Jackhammer started very shortly
Oh,
thereafter. I was
wow.
up early.
Wow, you don't have like an 8 o'clock. Hey, you don't get to start.
We looked it up today because of this. And
Yeah,
it's 7.
8 o'clock,
It's
right?
7.
7?
Yeah. And
Jackhammer.
I'm up early anyway because the puppy. I got a 10-month-old puppy, and he likes to go out 6:30. But I don't know. And I thought, well, we're gonna do this podcast. And they're gonna be jackhammering, and I'm gonna do
Yeah,
Robert.
well, and you don't want to be too anal about that stuff. But on a weekend, Saturday,
Right.
Yeah.
come on, 7 o'clock's early enough, man.
Jackhammer alarms aren't very nice. are they?
Jackhammer, and then sledgehammers and
Oh, shit.
bobcats, and I don't know.
blower.
My wife is very, should we say, unforgiving of
Hey,
these
that's
things.
okay.
I got nothing
that's
to say.
okay. I hear you. That's all good.
Do you play a musical instrument? I have to ask. Do you play?
I know what I have a guitar. I know where to put my hands.
He's got some chords.
and I can play the major chords.
There you
and
go.
I used to finger pick.
Yeah,
But
that's
it's been literally 20 years since I picked that thing up, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure I could do it anymore. But yeah, I know I love the guitar. Yeah, I love the guitar, but it's not not heavy metal. It's acoustic, and
yeah.
I'm a big James Taylor fan. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, at least you can do it. Yeah, I have no musical. My dad played the clarinet when he was younger, and he bequeathed the clarinet to me. It was kind of really nice. It was all silver, and I'm like, man, this thing must be worth a fortune.
You didn't play it? I was just wondering if it was
I
worth
sucked
the
at
fortune, did
it.
you?
I literally sucked at it. I remember I played it in school, and when I was in grade school, and I'll never forget the Marine Corps theme song. They would make us play that over and over again.
Oh
and
my gosh.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that instructor.
Sorry.
But I did. I was terrible at it. I couldn't wait to stop playing.
Yeah.
And
Especially if they're making you play that. Come on.
well, they had other things. I hated to practice. You know, you're never going to get any good if you don't practice.
There's a lot of practice.
Right.
You know, but
Well, Matt, you're a professional. Do you read music?
I used to read music. I'm weird because I would listen to music and I'd watch people play, and then I would take note and I'd be able to learn the song by watching you play it or listen to you play it. So I'd find the major, whatever major chords you're playing. I can hear the minor ones, and then I would find them on the actual fretboard.
Yeah, I was just curious because I never could read music. It's one of the things that I think kind of, soured me on the whole thing. I tried
Correct.
so many times, but it's like a foreign language.
It
to me.
is.
My brain does not compute that stuff. It just
I couldn't
never
learn
really
it
picked it up.
fast enough to play it at any kind of good pace towards something else. So basically what I would do is I would memorize the note in my head, and then I could find it on the guitar. And so I kind of compensated because I couldn't read it, and then I didn't have to read it. I would just listen or watch people play.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was a weird technique.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
yeah, the reading of the music was the other unfun thing about the music. Well, the reason I ask if you play is because people typically, well, not typically, more often than not, I should say, people that are musicians or see flying saucers. They see things.
Really?
So as we go through this journey of the UFO land, we see a lot, we read a lot about it.
Maybe it opens your mind up more or something for...
I guess I'm just closed mind. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think
Have you had people on who have, who say they've been abducted or
I have.
Yeah.
You have?
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
We just had a gentleman on a couple weeks ago that he went to when he was in his 20s. He's now in his 60s, but he went to Yosemite, bought a new car, and decided he wanted to take a road trip to Yosemite. And we had a hatchback, and he went up to Yosemite, and he just he wrapped up his coat, and he opened the hatchback up, crawled in the back, wrapped up his coat, used it as a pillow, and just in wilderness. And the next thing he knew, he was getting drawn up into the bottom of this UFO, and he did the typical thing, where he's on the table, and they were, examining him, doing things. And it's free. It's we see these things and these interviews on TV, but it's so much different. And he was really emotional about it. I mean, you could tell that something affected him pretty deeply. And it's amazing. And we have coming up the end of this month, we've got another gentleman who he really didn't want to come on camera and talk about it, but he's been here, and we've had a couple 2-hour sessions without recording because he wasn't comfortable talking about it. But he's going to come out and he's going to talk about his experience. And he was in the Fresno area, and he lived by I believe it's Fresno. They grew up next to this lake, and him and his brother has a lot of experiences with ETs and things like that. I see interviews on YouTube and see TV shows, and there's nothing like having a person here in the room with us and talking about this that has actually experienced this, and it's a lot different having the person right here.
It's
Well,
often...
I'm going to look one of those up because I think it's kind of fascinating stuff.
Correct.
Right? And even if you're a skeptic, I mean, it's one thing. It's easy to discount when you haven't been in the room with somebody who you've talked to or whatever. So
right, you're watching.
Listen.
You're watching them on a 3D platform, as in having them there. Often too, the cases is a lot of these people aren't believers or have been experiencers of anything they've seen that could be possibly UFO-ish. A lot of them are like, I've never believed in this once, and all of a sudden this happened, or this, I had these feelings or something brought up this, and I realized that that has happened So it's not like they're trying to make a buck on it. It's not like they're trying to get famous from it. If anything, it's probably the opposite. It's going to put you more scrutinized. So yeah, it's absolutely captivatingly interesting to me.
The emotions are incredible. Just it's. But we have them. I've had a couple on, and it's. I've had a gentleman that I work with actually do regression therapy. You've heard of that, I'm sure. Wow. And about past lives, and he invited me to witness his regression therapy. And he had, during one of his past lives, he, and the therapist didn't guide him at all. Didn't say, did you get on a spaceship? He just asked him what he's seeing. Literally, just what are you seeing? What are you experiencing? And his elder, this guy, he said he was on an island or on the coast somewhere, and he got on a ship, and they took him. The ETs abducted him, put him on a ship. They went underwater, and the whole outside of the ship became translucent, where you could see the fish as they went through the water. You could see fish and things underwater, and they didn't do anything bad to him or anything. They had, I guess, bad because they abducted him, but it wasn't a horrible experience. But these regression therapies are. I've been to 2 of them with him, and he was abducted twice in a past life. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's
that's deep.
That's that was the strangest thing I've ever witnessed in my life.
Yeah,
having somebody talk about, I
openly.
I believe in it. What do you think happens after you die, Robert? You ever think about that?
I do think about it.
After you get to be our age.
Yeah, I mean, you can't help but think about it, right? You got one foot in the grave already. I'm definitely thinking about it. I lost both my parents this past.
Oh no!
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, I mean, but they both lived into their mid-90s.
Yeah,
great,
wow.
great
so they
lives.
had a long life. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the older you get, the more you realize. When you were a kid, you think your parents are like ancient. They're so far. But you get to our age, and all of a sudden you realize, no, you're one step behind them.
That's right.
One step behind them. And so, now they're gone, I realize where I am.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think about it. The pragmatic part of me, which is the larger part of my brain, says, when you're done, you're done.
That's it. You're
it's
asleep.
just done.
It's just
you're
black.
done, and,
it's black, but you don't even know it's black. It's just...
Yeah, you don't even know.
You're asleep.
But honestly, you don't know. Right? You can't know. And so there's a part of me that, I mean, I don't believe in ghosts either, but, put me in a dark house alone by myself.
All of a sudden you're hearing things.
All of a sudden
you're hearing
my
things.
head
You're hearing
starts thinking things. And so clearly there's a part of me that, if I truly didn't believe it, that wouldn't faze me.
Correct.
But there's something up there that makes me think, maybe.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, even after my parents died, I was in that house where they both died alone for a period of, and
nothing?
your head starts going.
Was there something? Nothing?
No, I'm just fabricating in my head, but did I start talking to them as if they might be there? Yes, I did.
Absolutely.
I'm just, and so, I leave, there's a little place in my head that's left open to who knows what happens. Yeah.
Are you religious?
That's an interesting question. I consider myself very religious, but I don't subscribe or prescribe to any particular religion.
You're not practicing.
I mean, I'm.
Man,
you want to talk about God? Then I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. Sorry, if that offends people, but
no, it's okay.
No, my wife's like that too. She's like, no, there is no. She doesn't.
I mean, I used to be what I'd call agnostic, and then I just decided, no, you know what? I'm really atheist. But I feel I'm very religious in terms of how I treat other people
spiritually.
The way I live. Yeah, I feel very spiritual.
Yeah.
The people in UFO land think, a lot of them, not everybody, because we all have all kinds of different beliefs.
Yeah.
But that Jesus was actually an alien.
Okay.
So, this is what you've gotten yourself into, Robert.
Yeah, well, when I say it's interesting, right? I mean, because everybody is so different, and they think so differently about what's going on in the world.
It's super interesting.
It is super interesting,
Yeah.
and they believe with all their heart. Everybody,
That's right.
I'm
Belief's a weird thing. It really is kind of weird that people get beliefs and they fight for them, whether it's it's 100% true or not.
Yeah.
I literally am just trying to figure it all out. We have, I had a gentleman on who was a couple years ago. We've been doing this about 5 years, and a couple years ago he came on. He has an organization about the afterlife, a literal organization.
Wow.
That he believes that after you die, you go up. First of all, there's no hell. He says no, there's no hell.
I worked there. That's not true.
Well, I was good thing you're union. Yeah. So my theory is we're in hell and there's no place to go but up. But anyway, so he thinks that you ascend to this different plane of existence, and that you get to do whatever you want. I mean, no matter how. No, you can't kill anybody, but whatever good thing you want to do. You want to be with 10 women at once, that you can do that.
That could be a good thing.
It's you want to work on your classic car. You can do that. And I said, I said, I'm talking to him, and I said, it's kind of like eating candy corn. You like the candy corn right in the beginning, but after you eat so much candy corn, you're kind of sick of it. Would you get tired of doing whatever you wanted day after day after day? You know what I mean? Unless you're really creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
it depends on the reward. If the reward's good enough after what you've done and you've gotten, then maybe you still want more.
And I said, what happens when the axe murderer goes up there? Is he still an axe murderer? And they said, no, he has to, he discusses his axe murdering to other people, and he has to feel, as he discusses this with it, this guy was deep. After he discusses it with other people, that you feel what the people you killed, and you feel that as you're discussing it, and they feel it as you're discussing it. But after that, you can ascend also to another. You can ascend to another higher level, which is almost like pure spiritual energy. But never did he talk about in God, just that there wasn't a hell. But it's
that's true. That's
some
awesome.
of the people we have on are really interesting. It was. I thought it was. I didn't feel as bad about dying after I talked to him for an hour.
Yeah,
it was really weird. Well,
it must be nice to really believe that,
right?
Because, you're not worried about it, right?
Exactly.
It's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Kill me.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go.
I'll be fine.
I don't. Yeah, I literally.
I got 10 women, and
Yeah, I don't care. I've got women everywhere. I don't have to blow myself up to get there. It's. But it's really bizarre. I like to ask people what they believe in.
Everything weird.
Everything.
Yeah, and those are all good potential storylines, really.
See, exactly. See, the author has kicked in here.
Kind of fold that in somewhere.
Maybe some food for book 3.
4. He's already got 3 going.
Well, there are. I mean, the title of my book, 7 Gods. There are 7 gods in Baelon. So
Correct.
there's all kinds of things to play with.
Wow.
Yeah.
All kinds of beliefs.
You should always leave that open, just for some. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you're working on the third one. You haven't quite worked on the third one, but
I've just started outlining and plotting, and it's sort of mulling around up there.
What's it like? That's. I mean, I don't want to say that's all you do, because I'm sure you do a lot of other things. But what's it like not having to work? I should say, and
I think that's work.
And no, I don't. Not in the sense that you have to go in and
like a 9 to 5
punch a clock, or
you
do what you want. You don't have a deadline. You don't have anybody pressing you to get the next book out.
I don't. And honestly, I mean, retirement is great. It's about as close as I think I can get to that gentleman's, hey, I get to do what I want. when I want. So yeah, there's no master I'm a slave to anymore.
Yeah.
But when I worked, I was working hard. I was getting up at 6 in the morning, and we had council meetings that went till 1 in the morning. So it's back at it 6 the next morning.
Yeah.
So I don't miss that at all. And
Right.
all the negativity that came along with some of those days.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm living it. But as far as the book writing goes, the characters don't leave you alone. They're sort of always up there.
Oh, that's
And,
good.
yeah, it is good because that's what starts to drive the novel.
Yeah.
You get the characters become so real that they start telling you, here's what I'm doing next.
Yeah.
Here's how I'm going to react to that. And it starts to take on a life of its own.
You ever consider like an illustrationist or a graphic novel version of your series?
Wow, I have not. Interesting question. I mean, there's a map. I engage the services of a map.
So you've made a map for the universe, basically.
There's a map that shows the world of Baelon. Yeah, right in the beginning of the book.
That's awesome.
Sort of
That's a
plots
start.
out the little towns and all inside it. But that'd probably be pretty expensive to get a graphic designer to illustrate,
Yeah.
make illustrations. So, yeah.
Are you self-published?
I am self-published. Yeah.
How does that work when you do it yourself?
Oh, that's a complicated thing, Doug. It's actually very easy to self-publish. I'll tell you that. Anybody can go on Amazon.
Yeah, it's like
these
copyright
days,
stuff too.
and you don't even have. I mean, you don't have to copyright your material.
Right.
You can, and you still can get published.
Right.
But if you want it to look right, you want to get it professionally edited, ahead of time and all of that. But you don't have to secure a publisher to actually be published.
Right.
But you can also publish something that's got a whole bunch of typos and it can literally be crap.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to go on there, and
Right.
people are going to realize pretty quick it's crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
it
not
doesn't take
gonna do
much
it.
to get published.
Yeah.
So you have an editor? Do you have someone that goes through?
I do
Go
have
ahead.
an editor. Yeah, I work with an editor. My dad, having been a professional editor, I understand the value of that
Right.
trade.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're Stephen King's got an editor. Trust me.
Correct.
David Baldacci's got an editor.
Yep.
So
The greats.
you got to have one of those.
Is it expensive? Is it terribly
It is-
expensive?
I don't know if you'd call it terribly expensive, but it's I wouldn't recommend people go into writing to make a living. It's not. It's that's a one in a million kind of thing.
Yeah.
I often tell my wife I'm glad I didn't try to be a novel when I was younger. We'd probably all be sleeping under a bridge.
In a cardboard
Yeah.
box. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, because it's hard. It's really a struggle.
Probably more of a hobby before it becomes more of a career.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a hobby for me at the moment.
You
It's
spend
just-
more
it's
money
a-
than you probably get.
You do.
Yeah.
You do, honestly. It's certainly out of the get-go, right
Yep.
out of the box. You're
Yep.
spending more because you have to market, and nobody knows who you are. And there's literally millions of books being published
That's
every
right.
year.
That's right.
And so if you want to do more than just sell to your friends and family,
Yep.
you're going to have to market. You're going to have to put some money out there.
Yeah.
If you ever recoup that, you're probably pretty lucky.
Lucky. Yeah. That's the way music is too. So
Sounds like podcasting.
yeah, it's same.
Yeah, there you go, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot more output than there is input.
Yeah. Well, that
Yeah.
spaceship you're in, has got to cost a
It's
pretty
not
penny.
cheap.
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
Just
Yeah.
the maintenance alone, let alone the.
It's not cheap.
And I get it dirty all the time.
what I
so.
have to do to pay for this
Yeah.
backdrop is pretty incredible.
He makes me clean the window.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, it's
That's awesome.
so third book. Is it coming out? What are we looking? A couple years?
Well, I'm hoping it'll come out sometime next year,
Yeah.
2026. I hope if
That's not too far away.
we're right at the beginning stages, so it's a little early to tell. But
Yeah.
hopefully, the second one just came out last week. So
Okay.
I'm just sort of getting my feet wet now. With the
Yeah.
third.
And you can get that on Amazon?
You can get them on Amazon. Yeah, both Six Moons, Seven Gods and Two Crowns, Three Blades is the second one. They're both.
I
on
love the
Amazon.
names.
Yeah.
Those just sound
And
so
they're-
awesome.
Very nice.
You can get them audiobook if you're not a big reader. You want to just put on the headphones. You can get them audio as well.
Who did the narrative? Who's the?
I did.
Nice.
The
Yeah,
narrative.
you're
Yeah,
good.
that was another learning curve for me. That was brutal.
Was it brutal?
Yeah, it was brutal, man. Brutal. Just, learning the software and then,
Yeah.
and I wanted to be right.
And it takes
voices.
hours too, right? It's not.
Oh, well, the book's actually 11 hours long. We were
Right.
just listening to it. And so to put in, to get those 11 hours took.
That's not actually 11 hours isn't. Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
bad.
I don't know, it
But the
seems
reviews have been very kind. So
Yeah.
it's all good. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm definitely gonna pick it up. My kid loves. I got him into reading years ago, so I already sent him your information. He's already starting to. He's gonna definitely check it out.
How old's he, Matt?
My oldest is 23.
Oh, perfect age.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
3,
Yeah.
2 boys and a girl. He's the oldest.
Nice. Yeah.
none of my kids are readers.
No.
They're action children.
Hey, not all of mine have read my book. So
Really?
yeah.
You would-
I hear you.
Not all of mine have listened to my podcast.
There you go.
Are any of them writers of your kids?
They write well,
Right.
but to date, I don't see them itching to write novels.
Yeah. Just like mine don't really play a musical instrument. A few of them have learned to play, but they don't really play. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you never.
You haven't forced them to follow.
I
your
tried.
footsteps.
All it does is drive them away. So I stopped forcing them so they come back. I tried.
There you go.
One of my kids calls me a nerd, which I don't really consider myself really a nerd, but
No.
he doesn't believe in any of this at all. He's gotten into religion. It's kind of weird.
Really?
I mean, we weren't religious
Growing up?
and which nothing wrong with it. Not that there's anything wrong with it, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't believe. So I'll send him every religious related UFO comic that comes on. It's kind of funny. There's this one. You guys are gonna hate me for this one. There's this comic that had these two aliens just stepped outside their spaceship, outside their flying saucer, and they came upon Jesus, who's nailed to the
boy.
cross.
Oh no.
And the one turns to the other way and says, "We gotta get the F out of here."
This is gonna go bad. This is gonna turn south real quick.
So of course I had to send it to him.
Oh my God.
They
That's-
weren't wrong. I'm gonna get in
Yeah.
trouble for that one.
Oh yeah, you're going down.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Well, kids are great.
that's
Kids
the
are great.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of mine. Every time I open my mouth, he's like, "Boomer."
Yeah.
So does mine do that. Mine does that too. So it's
Boomer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that too.
yeah, whatever.
At least I understand technology somewhat.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
I can work my iPhone. I know how to work the computer, kind of.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I would say the same thing. My kids would beg to differ, but
you just can't tell them when you're struggling, Robert. You don't ask them for help.
Well, you do your books on a computer, correct? Or
yes, I do.
We're not
Yes, I
talking
do.
old-fashioned typewriter, right?
No.
Oh
and I-
wow, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're modernized.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I'm good. Wow.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and let's wrap it. Unless you have something else to say. There,
No,
Robert, about-
I'm good. Yeah.
And we really appreciate you coming on.
Yes, sir.
I
And,
appreciate you having me.
So, Robert, and
too.
it's the series, the legend. I'm going to say
Make
this
sure you get
correct.
this right.
The Legends of Baelon.
The Legends of Baelon. There you go.
Very
Yeah,
good.
I got it right.
2-book series.
Okay, Robert. Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Alien Pro Podcast. You can catch us on all podcast platforms. Whatever your favorite is, you can find us. YouTube, Rumble, Patreon. Just Google us and you can find us. And you can find Robert's interview. And thank you for listening.
So nice meeting you, Robert.
Thanks,
Nice meeting
Robert.
you.
Can't
Yes.
wait to read your books.
Appreciate
Awesome.
it. Thanks,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Have a good day. Thank you.
You too. Take care.
Bye.